Hi there. In this video, we'll see how to create and run a Ubuntu Linux operating system from a Windows 7 machine using VMware Workstation. So the software that you will need, you'll obviously need VMware Workstation, and you will also need an image of the Linux operating system. So let's first go and launch VMware Workstation. I clicked on it. It should come up in a minute. There you go. So as soon as you launch VMware Workstation, it gives us three choices here. We can either create a new virtual machine, or we can create a new team and add several virtual machines to it, or if we have an image of an existing virtual machine, we can open that image from VMware Workstation. So let's for now go and create a new virtual machine. Go with the typical settings. So we can install the new virtual machine from an installer disk. We can install it from an ISO image, or we can just create a blank virtual machine and install the operating system later. Since we wanted to install the Ubuntu Linux version of the operating system on this virtual machine, let's pick the second choice. I already have an ISO image of the Linux operating system downloaded. You can actually go into the site www.ubuntu.com/download to download an ISO image of that Linux distribution. So I'm now pointing to that image which I downloaded, and then I say it's still trying to do some processing there. Okay, and then I say next. Once I say next, it gives me the options for personalizing the operating system. So let me put in a name, let me put in a username, let me put in a password, put in a password again. It asks us where we want to save the operating system. Let's go with the default options here. Here it asks us to specify the size of the hard disk on the virtual machine. I have about 13 gigs free on my C drive, so let me specify 10 gigs as the size of the virtual operating system. There are two options here. We can either install the virtual machine or the virtual disk as a single file, or we can split it into multiple files so that it's easy to transport it from one machine to another machine. Let's just go with the first option here, which is to store the virtual disk as a single file. Say next. Before we hit finish, let's click on customize hardware to quickly review the settings. The new Linux operating system is configured to use about 512 megabytes of my RAM. I have a total of about 2 gigabytes of RAM on this machine. It's configured to use the one core of my processor. These are the options for CD, floppy, options for network adapter, where the machine is configured to share the host machine's IP address. It's configured to use the USB controller, sound card, printer, and display. So now that we are done with that, let's go ahead and say OK, and let's go ahead and say finish. So this should actually create the new virtual machine, and it should also power it up. It should install Linux on it, and it should power it up. I don't want VMware Workstation to update at this point of time, so I'm going to hide this for a minute. I'm going to say OK here, and I'm going to let Linux installation continue. So after the Ubuntu installation is complete, we'll be taken to this login screen, where we can actually log in using the credentials that we provided when installing Linux, and say login. And this should actually take us into the Linux desktop view. And yeah, we are already running Linux within Windows 7 using Windows Workstation. Let's just wait for the desktop of Linux to show up. Here it comes. And to make sure everything is working correctly, let's just try and launch Firefox here and see if it's able to connect to the internet. It should be using the host machines, sharing the IP address of the host machine. And yeah, there it goes. It connects to the internet, and it connects to Google.